Hey everyone, welcome to episode 124 of the Ceres podcast. I'm your host Stelios, the founder and director of Ceres Pure Food Innovation, and today's guest is Amanda Stansfield from Granny Gothards. So, what's new? Well, quite a bit actually. Today I met with the professional cleaning company who will be cleaning the new fulfillment centre. It's not that it's dirty or anything, but you can't be putting food in a room without a good clean. After we get it all cleaned down, then we'll be sealing the floor with a special coating to reduce the dust, then putting down pest control, and then when that's done, we can start looking at the next jobs. If you've been on our online store recently, you'll notice that the potato preparation is out of stock. This is because it's undergoing a little transformation and will be available again in a few weeks, all being well. The super absorbent cloths are now back in stock, but ignore the photos for now. They have also undergone a little transformation, and now the super absorbent cloths are blue. Another new addition to our label solutions are the homemade fish cake labels. What a better way to promote the fact that your homemade fish cakes are in fact homemade? Well, these easy to use, cost efficient labels are perfect for the job. They come in their own little dispenser box to make your job easier too. All our label solutions are plastic free. They're all in stock and they're all usually with you for next day. To see what we've been up to and how our solutions can help you, visit worldofceres.com. Today's guest is Amanda Stansfield from Granny Gothards. Granny Gothards is in the heart of the southwest, nestled in the green countryside of Devon. They are artisan ice cream makers. It's not just artisan in the name, it's in the product and how they make it too. They believe in adding nothing artificial and using only the very finest natural ingredients to make amazing ices. Everyone's heard this before, but the truth is, with Granny Gothards, luxury is in the content. I tried some ice cream when I was down there in Devon, and I have to admit it was special. It's not posh for posh's sake. It just tastes like proper ice cream should. There's no fakery, it's pure quality in abundance. It was great to sit and chat with Amanda about the inception and growth of Granny Gothard and the fact that they are now selling internationally, where consumers want luxury and ice cream all the time because the weather permits. Anyway, on to the podcast with Amanda. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Amanda, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, nice to see you finally.
I know, thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure that you managed to get down after all the aborted attempts we've tried.
Oh, it'll be 6 times.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Well, you're busy, and so that's the main thing. And but busy making ice cream.
Yeah, always. And now the sun's shining, obviously, it's getting busier.
Yeah, you'll be nice and busy now.
Yeah.
It's come a bit early though, hasn't it?
It has. It's about 2 weeks early, and I must admit, I got some pictures through on my Facebook, and 4 years ago, March the 18th, and we had thick snow down in Budden Salterton. You know.
How long does it usually take for the weather and your stock to start correlating? So if the weather gets warm, how long before you start seeing an increase in sales?
Most people start in Easter,
okay.
So within the parlours and that type of thing,
Yeah.
it's Easter. There's their main sort of, right, we want ice cream there for then. And then, so many people bank on that Easter weekend, and that can be real hit and miss weather-wise. If it's great weather, sales just start then. But because we have that split between, restaurants and pubs and then parlours and tourist attractions, if it's too hot, the pub sales go down because people don't want to go to the pub, they want to go to the beach and the rest and the tourist attractions. And if the weather sort of gets a bit too cold, then they go inside the pub and then the tourist attractions come down. So we cover the business by, supplying to both sides.
You can probably see, I say sometimes, as we approach the Easter time, we can see that a lot of orders go from the middle of England, let's say, to all the outskirts, all the coasts. And especially Whitby, sort of Exmouth, all of that, you can see all of that. And then September time, it all starts to come back inwards again. And I wonder if you do see similar patterns like that.
Yeah, we do. You know, London sort of gets really, really busy sort of in the cooler months and everything. And then the sort of outlying areas, like you say, the parlours and things. We're not really a seafront ice cream, but we have maybe about 8 or 9 customers. It's increasing all the time, actually, whereby they take our ice cream in a scooping environment. And so, you know, we've seen they've started already, whereas normally they would be waiting till Easter time.
Yeah.
So one of them in particular, who luckily is only down the road in Taunton, they've literally been into us 4 times this week.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
It's
that's
like,
nice.
you know, they just say, oh, you know, we're really busy, and kids haven't even broken up from school yet, because that's a big key thing when the children break up.
Yeah. Do you think the British culture is changing? Have we took some of the European attitudes? I see that we drink less beer and alcohol now, and we probably do more coffee and more ice cream in the winter months as well. Like, do you see a little bit of that?
There is a change. I mean, I spent quite a few years in Munich, and, you know, in Munich we would walk to the ice cream parlour, and it would be freezing cold weather, but you wrapped up warm and you sat there, had a coffee and an ice cream. It's changing, but slowly. Yeah. But we've got a couple of sites down in Exmouth whereby they're literally on the sea, and they have a lot of kite surfers and everything else down there. And so, you know, a kite surfer will be out all day, come back, have a hot chocolate, and then have an ice cream as well for the sugar, you know, to lift the energy levels and everything. So, yeah, I think people are sort of changing, and you only have to see people sitting outside more. I just wish everybody wasn't outside on the mobile phones, but that's
that's probably a pet hate.
Yeah.
We were in Bristol. What was it? Probably just after Christmas. It was definitely January time, and we were all having an ice cream at the top where the Clifton Suspension Bridge is, just sort of sitting up there. It was windy, it was cold, and yet we're all having ice cream.
Well, you know, as an ice cream producer, it's never too cold for an ice cream.
Well, if I ever get locked in one of your freezers, I'll just carry on.
Just eat through it. It'd be fine.
Probably could, to be fair. So how does Amanda get involved with Granny Gothard's ice cream? Tell us a little bit about that.
It was never in my long-term plans, I've got to say. So my background is manufacturing accountant, and I'd always worked for sort of quite big blue-chip companies.
Okay.
Did a lovely spell as an auditor, an internal auditor, which was great because I was able to travel the world. And then I settled down, had children, moved to, you know, had a couple of jobs sort of in between the children sort of going to school. And then we moved down to Devon about 25 years ago. And I sort of thought, I won't work for a while, you know, just see how things go. And then I saw a job advertised in a local paper for a management accountant in Somerset, and they were a willow growing company. Okay. So I drove up there, thought it's too far for me to drive from Devon up there. But I met somebody in the car park who owned the company, and they said, oh, please just come and, you know, just do 2 days in the office and 1 day at home. So anyway, I said I'd help them out for 6 months. 12 months later... 12 years later, I was still there and enjoying it, got involved in sales and also met my best friend who, you know, was key to starting the business. And we were just looking for something to do, you know, that we could do ourselves, so we could spend more time together. And we were looking at cafes and it was like, you know, that's a lot of work. It's sort of 7 days a week. And, you know, we didn't know whether we wanted to do that. Neither of us had a background in food, apart from the fact that we're mums and we cook for kids, you know, and we ate it. And the Gothard farm, so Granny Gothard's where the name comes from. So the Gothard family, they had a huge farm just down the road from where I was working. And we did used to take some of their ice cream because we had a bit of a visitor centre there as well. And you know what? I'm very much about fate. And I happened to be in the office. I happened to be in Jean's office at the time when Donna, who is my production manager now and worked 1 day a week for the Gothards, came in and said, you guys will have to get your ice cream from somewhere else because the owners are getting rid of the business. They're not even selling the business, they're selling all the equipment because they're just not going to do it anymore and just shut the whole thing down. And Jean looked at me and I looked at her.
One of those
it was one of those moments. And this was October time, so it wasn't even, you know, summertime, and because the sun was shining, we were sort of, you know, drawn towards ice cream. And we just said, shall we have a go at it? So we went and bought the business. What equipment was still left. left, rented the ice cream parlour, which was a converted milking shed, and we started making ice cream. And the sole intention was that we would make it, then we'd go out to shows and we'd sell it, and it meant Jean and I could have weekends away, two women of a certain age having a giggle in a caravan, and that's what we did it for.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I didn't enjoy that side of the business. I didn't enjoy the standing in a field, and I'd given up a good job to do it that as well. But what it did do, it showed us we'd got something that was pretty special.
Yeah.
Because the public like that are great for coming back and telling you what they think of your product. And so we'd have people coming back and saying, oh my God, I've never tasted ice cream like this. This is amazing. One guy came back and said, bloody hell. Oh, man,
that's all right. That's not a swear word, trust me.
One bloke came back and said, how amazing. He said, the rum and raisin. He said, that packs a punch, you know. So we knew we'd got something that was good. So we just developed it from there.
That was a lot of people's business model back then. If they started a small business, something quite homey, let's say, that was always go to the weekend shows, and for some it really worked, and for others I think they probably got like you, where they're a bit tired of that, going there and standing on your feet all weekend. And
and ice cream's difficult because it's so weather dependent.
Yeah.
And I remember one show in particular that we were at, and we spent more money on blankets to keep warm than we took in ice cream sales.
Yeah.
And also, you can't just put the stuff in the back of the car and leave it till the next morning to sort out. So we were getting back to the parlour. We had a horse box that we towed along with a beautiful ice cream cart in it. But we'd have to get back to the parlour at 2 o'clock in the morning and unload that, bring it back into stock, dispose of anything that we'd opened and not finished. Yeah. And it just wasn't the right business model for what we wanted to do.
No, I completely see that, actually. It is, I think, I get how it works for some, but I wouldn't want to do that. No, it seems like a lot of effort for small volume.
Yeah.
And I think I can get it if you're trying to get people, or create like a grassroots sort of thing. And I think, but yeah, it seems like a lot of effort.
It is, and if what we were doing, we were manufacturing during the day, then we were doing the deliveries sort of in the afternoon, and we were doing the accounts in the evening, and then Saturday and Sunday we were standing in a field. Yeah. It just, I thought, no, there's got to be a better.
What sort of changes did you and your friend implement then?
Well, Jean left quite early on in the business. So Jean left after a couple of years, and we are still the best friends in the world.
What's she gone on to?
She's retired.
Oh, that's nice. Isn't it?
She retired.
Lucky
she was lucky,
Jean.
Yeah. But she is definitely my biggest fan, and any successes that we have or any problems that we have, I'll pick up the phone to Jean. She's always there to listen. But it was the business was definitely growing in a different direction, in so much as what it made us realise, like I say, the product was good. So I remember sitting back and thinking, right, who is our market? Where is our market? Who is going to want to buy this ice cream? Because it wasn't cheap. And there was, there's no excuse for why it wasn't cheap, which I'm sure we'll come into later. But I thought it's going to be chefs who would make ice cream themselves. But for whatever reason, they don't want to, they haven't got the time, and it was offering them something different on the market. So the major change we made, or sort of, I made to the business, was actually taking it out to chefs. And we had no sales team. We used to just, bowl up at a chef. And I remember going and thinking at first that every single pub or restaurant was a customer. And if they're doing 2 meals for 10 quid, they're not going to spend £35 on a tub of ice cream. So it was then targeting the high-end chefs. And at first it was a struggle to get to go and see those guys. But we used to just turn up at the door and say, hi, can we just leave you some ice cream samples? And a lot of times, especially in Bath and Bristol, we used to get, it's not a certain brand, and we say, well, no, why? Oh, well, they're everywhere. So that played into our hands, that we were quite, bespoke, and people didn't know about us, because if you've got a 5-star restaurant, you don't want to be serving an ice cream that literally you can buy from any corner shop. Yeah,
that is something you see everywhere now. It's like, a brand gets quite popular, and well done to them for pushing out, but then it's the same. And what is different if 4 people on a parade are all doing whatever ice cream it is? They're all doing, I remember I went one place, and I know it's not a British ice cream, but it was Movenpick, and it was just everywhere. It's just everywhere. And you think,
Yeah, you've got to, if you've got that, if your business is selling a product, you actually want something that's a bit different, because like you say, you've got all these other brands, and the Southwest is known for its ice cream brands, and you've got all these different ice cream brands, and then it comes down to price.
Yes,
and
of course.
we're not about that. So it was very much, just finding the right customers and then targeting them. And what's brilliant is chefs are very transient. So what we found was that once we were in with a restaurant with a chef, as they moved on, if they, wherever they were going to, wherever they moved to, didn't have Granny Gothards, 9 times out of 10 they would take you with us, take you with them, and therefore we suddenly became the ice cream in their new place.
I think the benefit of that is also that the new chef that comes into the old place sees it there,
Exactly.
and then he's curious too.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I see it as well.
Or even better, the menu already said Granny Gothard's ice cream. So they, some places say Granny Gothard's. There are quite a few places I go to in Bristol, and I turn up and I go, oh, this is our ice cream, and I can tell because it is so different from.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, the fact that our mint isn't green, and that our strawberry and cream is not pink, and
so you haven't gone
like
down
that.
the cliche, no.
Absolutely not. No.
Well, actually, I think that coffee ice cream I had, and most people that listen to this know that I like my food, but I'm also quite selective in certain ways, that I'm trying to be good, and I don't really do it all the time. But that was really nice. It was smooth. It was, I think the word was velvety almost. It was just like, but it wasn't like a normal ice cream. And I think it's because that we're so used to, people don't know it, we're so used to ice cream having air through it. And you were talking about this as we were setting up, and you've sort of really worked hard to say we're not doing that. And I guess air and sugar, sugar's always in ice cream, but that air sort of opens it up. So people think they're getting, I don't know, a 100-gram pot, when really it's 70 grams of ice cream and 30 grams of air, isn't it?
Well, to be honest, even worse than that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it is just how the industry works, and ice cream is sold by volume and not by weight, which is horrible for us, but it's great for the ice creams that have that high sort of, it's called a production overrun, and it's the amount of air that's added into a product. And some products, they've got 125% air. So I remember going into a customer, and actually they said, oh, can you put it in the freezer for me? And I said, yeah, of course I can. And I picked a tub of another brand up, and I thought it was empty. I thought they were display tubs, because I was so used to the weight of our tubs. Our 100ml pots will weigh about 83 grams. But you do need a certain amount of air, but that's the air that's in ours is just from the normal churning process. So, but it was when soft serve came out. So when not your whippy, but just your hard block ice cream that was then soft serve. And I remember as a kid, Mum being absolutely delighted that she could get a tub of ice cream out of the freezer in the 70s when everybody was putting everything in the freezers, and you could serve the kids straight away. But that's what happened. We started to push air, started to put air through products, and it changes the taste. And also the other thing, I don't know if you've ever had an ice cream and you've put it on a hot apple pie, and before you've got to eat the ice cream, it's just like bubbles and a bit of foamy stuff on it. You don't get that with ours.
Oh, really?
Because there's no, when it hits something hot, yes, the edges of it will soften, but the body of the ice cream is so solid that you're not going to get that melt all the time.
So many people blame Thatcher for shutting down mines, but you blame her for the ice cream and the air.
Yeah, but air and ice cream.
I'm not sure it's the same standard, but it's still nonetheless, it's what matters.
It affects people. Yeah, it still affects people.
So what else would you say is different about the manufacturing process of like Granny Gothard's ice cream? What else would you say is quite unique?
The main things that are different. One is if we start off with the ingredients. So there's an awful lot of ice creams, if you read the labels on them, that have no milk in them at all. They have a milk powder. So we cut out the middleman. We get the milk delivered fresh every day from the cows, and literally it comes from a farm about 15 minutes away, and it's delivered to us straight after morning milking. And to that we add double cream, and we add Clarence Court egg. Or Clarence Court egg yolks. That gives it the rich colour, so people with our vanilla ice cream, they'll say, why is this so orange? Because that's the egg yolk in it. So we start off with those ingredients. There's nothing in our ice cream that you can't buy in a supermarket, so there's no hydrogenated fats, there's no monosodium glycine. I can't even say them. I'm not a chemist, I'm not a food scientist, I'm a cook. So we mix eggs, milk and cream, and then we add to it strawberries or chocolate or honeycomb or honey. But we do, every single product we have, every single flavour has a different recipe. And if you liken it to making a sponge cake, so if you make a Victoria sponge cake, it's one recipe. If you make a Madeira, it's a different. If you make, I don't know, what other cakes, like a Bakewell or what, they're all different. They're all still cakes, but they have different ingredients. And I don't know how you can make all the flavours of ice cream with the same base mix. So we don't have a base mix at all. It's just made individually per flavour.
Nice.
It's hand blended. It then goes into a small ice cream machine, so it's not a 600 or an 800 litre machine where it goes in one end and then it just pumps it out the other. And that machine then pasteurises the custard, which is what we've made. So the posh name for it is a creme anglaise. But it is a custard, and then that pasteurises it. It will melt the chocolate, it will sort of melt the honey or whatever we're putting in, and then we literally open a valve and it drops into the cooling chamber. And that will then, it's got your blender in there which is turning it round, churning the ice cream, freezing it down quickly. So that's the difference between like a home ice cream machine, you know, the time it takes, freezes it down quickly, and it comes out straight out of the machine into either a 5 litre pot or the 100ml or the 500ml.
And the quicker it freezes, the less ice crystals it gets out, right?
Yeah. And also the key thing for the ice crystals as well, it's the balance between the glucose and glucose syrup. So in our special blend of sugars, and anybody who's bought one of our ice cream kits to make stuff at home will know that we have, you know, Granny Gothard's secret sugars in there. And that's a blend of sugar, glucose syrup. It's got a little bit of locust bean gum, which is the natural emulsifier we use. And in some of the flavours we have a little bit of pectin as well. So if we're using an apple or something like that, there'll be a little bit of pectin. But that blend between the glucose syrup and the glucose is what stops the ice crystals forming. So, and the glucose syrup gives it that ability to freeze badly, but without giving it the extra sweetness. So
you're unashamedly adding lots of fat and lots of sugar. So one thing we were talking about before is there's probably not a likeliness that you're going to do like a healthy one or an angel version, because there's just no point, is there?
No, you won't get the same ice cream. I mean, we have another brand called Pro Ice, which we do with frozen yogurt. So we use a low-fat low-fat Greek yogurt, and we use a reduced sugar mix for that. Yeah. But that is for that's for gyms and things like that. But pure Granny Gothard's ice cream will always be full fat, full natural fats, and full fats that actually we all need. You know, our brain, it's been proven, our brain needs fats, but it needs good fats. It doesn't need all the hydrogenated fats. So, you know, we don't make any excuse for that. People will say, you know, oh, it's quite high in calories. It's 200, it's, you know, for a single serving, which is a 100ml serving, it's, you know, between 200 and 250 calories. Well, that's less than a bag of crisps, you know. But people think, oh, well, it's got all that fat in it. But it's the good fat. And because, you know yourself, if you have a low-fat product, you put loads of sugar into it. So, you know, when people are on low-fat diets, if you actually look at the product, it's potentially got more calories in it because of all that extra sugar.
Do you remember the fat-free phase of the 90s? It was big in America, and probably not as big as England, but it was big in America. And they said that alone probably converted millions of people to type 2 diabetes, because they were thinking, oh, there's no fat in this. But what they were ingesting was just loads of sugar. So it's like if you go back to any natural ingredient or any sort of product that's not over-processed, that's the purest state you can eat it in. That's what our bodies actually need. And I think when you look at all the food allergies and things that there are at the moment, these things have come in because of processing. So I know people who can't eat white bread, but if they make bread at home with natural flour that they've bought from either the local mill or the local farm shop, they're fine with it. So it is that over-processing, and we don't over-process. No, and I think, but the fact is, and I wrote this down earlier when I was setting up, is that in my mind, you don't sell ice cream. You do. It's a vehicle, but what you're actually selling is indulgence. And that is what I've always said in our industry, we should be selling, or at least promoting indulgence, not fish and chips, for argument's sake. Fish and chips is what it is, but it's the happiness it gives you. And it's the same as that ice cream. When I was eating it and I was trying to say to myself, well, you're going to be good, this ain't going to be exciting, I was eating every single one and listening to you and enjoying it. And I think people can get too hung up on, oh, I want a healthy one. Right? Actually, just have one of those, for a treat. Or like that little pot. How big is that? 100 gram, that one?
Yes, that's 100 mil. It's about 220 calories.
Yeah, so for me, it's just like, get a grip. Don't start making someone make a healthier version, which is actually worse for you anyway.
Well, if you look at those ones that are on the shelves, we all know them, the big brands and everything that supposedly somebody developed in a kitchen, and then all of a sudden they're in every single supermarket in the world. Yeah. So there's obviously a massive marketing budget behind it. But if you look at them, look at how much ice cream you're actually getting for your money, and look at the ingredients list.
Gums and sugars.
Oh, it's worse than that.
Yeah.
They're made up with water and powders and whey powders and all the rest of it. And if you take out egg out of ice cream, because there's not many manufacturers that actually use egg in ice cream, egg is the thing that binds the fats together. If you take the egg out, you have to put something else in. Yeah. So, and it's the same with sugar. If you take sugars out, you have to put something else in.
Yeah, I guess if you take an egg out, you probably need something like methylcellulose or something like that. Gums.
If you think of a custard, if you make a custard without eggs, it's just milk and cream.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing happens to it. But by putting the egg in, that's what allows it to thicken up.
Yeah. No, it's always fascinated me because I don't eat a lot of ice cream generally. Try not to. But yeah, I would rather have a nice one rather than lots of a crap one.
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably, but again, I guess like you say, you're unashamedly just trying to make a great ice cream. You're not working to a price point, you're working to a quality point.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. And because there is so much choice in this country, you can do that. There's nothing.
And I think the thing is with ice cream, and I know this in the retail market, is the fact that people buy ice cream by price or brand.
Okay.
And so, you go in, you've got the kids, they want a tub of ice cream to take home, and you look at the price, and you look at some of the brands that, you can get a litre of ice cream for £2.50 in a supermarket where they've, you and I know they've got a 40% margin on that. So how much does that ice cream come to, cost to get to that supermarket? How much does it cost to make? And we will never do that. We don't need to do that. We've now just got into Waitrose and Ocado, which we're obviously delighted with. But it sells at £7.
Yeah.
We sell, and if you think you can go and buy, a 5 litre ice cream for £7 in a supermarket, you've got to have that sort of difference. And we do sell that luxury, and I think one of our strap lines is unforgettable luxury. And there is that market out there, but I do still believe that there is a need for the cheaper ice creams. And for us it's great because we don't want to be in Waitrose. Waitrose.
You
do
want to be in Waitrose, just to clarify.
And we're delighted to be in Waitrose, but we don't want to be in the other supermarkets because that would totally destroy what's unique about it.
I suppose in that respect, going to, let's say, the mainstream supermarkets, is that a bit of a race to the bottom to some degree, or could it be just detrimental because all of a sudden they'll say, well, we've got to work back to this price and then allow for this margin, which means we've got to be here, and then it's like, well, we can't use this ingredient, that ingredient, this ingredient, now we have to put air through it, now we've got to do this, and it's almost like before you know it, you weren't on the same thing, are you?
Exactly, and I never want anybody to put a spoonful of Granny Gothards in their mouth and go, oh my goodness, Granny Gothards has changed.
Yeah.
I never want that to happen. So it's almost good that we are so far away from a retail price that the mainstream supermarkets want, because that fact is then we don't even look at that as being an option for us.
I guess in some ways you want to create, in my mind, you want to create a bit of, not even whether it's, you either want to create a bit of wow or the complete opposite, which is probably, oh, no way. And I think because I've always said, if you walk past a brand and you're just indifferent, I would hate to be that. I'd like to be hated more than that.
Yes.
Because if you're hated, you're still loved by someone else,
Exactly.
Whereas if it's just, who wants to be that business? Oh, I'd hate to be that business.
I mean, that's the packaging, the new wooden packaging that we did that sort of got the interest of Waitrose. It was my way of showing you, the consumer, that there was something special in that packaging.
Yeah.
Because if I sit in front of a chef, I can take 15 flavours and he'll go, oh yeah, that's strawberry and cream, that's raspberry, that's creme fraiche and horseradish, that's whatever. They can pick that up and he can say to me, wow, that's amazing. You as a consumer just look at the line of ice creams in the freezer and go, I've never heard of that brand, and it's £3-4 more expensive than the other. But by putting it in the wooden pot, and we've had such amazing feedback from that. We started on a trial with, I think it was 30 to 40 stores with Waitrose with 3 flavours. And we've just launched in 193 stores with 4 flavours, and then the option to do seasonal ones, throughout the year. And it's because the public will look at it and see it and then go, okay, we'll give that a try. And once they've tried it, we have them hooked. And we saw a guy not so long ago who did a vlog. He was a food vlogger, and he did the most expensive products in Waitrose.
Oh, really?
And he sort of sent me the link to this video. I thought this could go one of 2 ways. But he took the ice cream home, the salted honey ice cream, and he sat down and he said, this was the most expensive ice cream I could find in Waitrose. And actually, as a product, it's pretty expensive. He took the wines out of the equation and all the rest of it. And he sat there with a spoon. He just went, oh my goodness. Oh my God, this is amazing. And it's that we want you to have. And, yes, there's a place for, your Ben and Jerry's and your Haagen-Dazs. There is a place for those. And also the cheaper brands as well. But we are just sticking.
I think one thing that I love about food is that it's so diverse. One thing I hate about food is that people don't know how to judge it. So they will say that's expensive, but it's not, because everything is relative. If you're using, like you said, British strawberries, British mint, or ingredients that are just fresh milk being delivered daily, then I don't think the word expensive is the right word.
We always say that the ice cream isn't expensive. It is just luxurious. It's a different market. It's almost when you come into looking for distributors as well. When you start working with distributors, you pick the distributors that are at the right sort of price level for you, because it's no good going to a distributor who's going into schools, for example, because schools haven't got the budget for this ice cream. Hospitals, it drives me mad with hospitals when you think you're feeling pretty rough. And my daughter was in a few weeks ago, as you know, and she had an ice cream delivered on with her meal. It was awful. Now, why should you be subjected to that?
Of all places, you think the hospital should be the place where they're giving you something to make you feel better.
Exactly. But, I get that. I get that various customers or potential customers are under budget constraints, but they're not our customers. No. So, we presented to the airlines, and Emirates, I remember, Emirates just absolutely loved it, but the price that they wanted us to come down to. And I said to them, I'm not looking for your economy. I'm not looking for that market. Let's just do this first class and business class. And all that happens in the first class and business class is they get a bigger part of the not particularly brilliant ice cream that's being served in economy. So we got into private jets, and we were doing ice cream for private jets. And of course there, the budgets are, huge. But we were doing rosewater and gold leaf, and just really unusual flavours, and putting those into private jets. So again, it's picking where your market is and just going for those customers, and not actually getting upset that you can't go into, a Tesco's or something like that, because that's not where we want to be.
No, it's so true. I think once you understand your target market, aim for it, and have that soul, that focus on it.
And don't make any excuse for why you are expensive. There are certainly ice cream companies that sell that 100ml pot for the same price as we do, because that's just almost an industry standard. They're making huge margins, and that's why they can give away freezers, and they can give away all those extra things. But I just think nothing comes without a price. I would rather you pay the same price and get luxury ice cream and put your own freezer in, which is then your asset, and then we'll give you some stock to a retail value of. I would rather do that than I never ever wanted to be in a market where I was sitting opposite a buyer and we were fighting over pennies per pot. It's not what
I've done it before. It's depressing. It is really. Honestly, I'd rather just have it.
Exactly. Because they're not interested in how good it tastes. They just want to know, will it sell, and will we get our margin?
I've done exhibitions in the past, and people will just walk straight up to me and go, "How much is it?" And you're like, "Do you know what I do?" No. Oh, how do you know?
Exactly. I remember going into a pubs when we first started, when I said everybody was our customer, and I'd walk in and say, hi, can I have a word with the chef? I've just want to talk to you about ice cream. And I had exactly that. Well, how much is it? And I just turn around and go out, because that isn't what we're about. And I will, there are, with all the major wholesalers, I've got, the bargain ice cream that we all want. You know what does drive me potty though, absolutely round the twist, is when some customers will take our, unusual flavours and everything, and I said, can we have vanilla, strawberry and chocolate in with you as well? And they go, no, why not? Oh, it's only the kids that eat that. Why should we be filling our children with food that's not particularly good for them? Yeah. My grandson had an ice cream the other day. He calls our mint, it's called speckled mint, and he calls it special mint. And
still good.
Yeah, still special mint. And he couldn't get it wherever he was with his mum. They were out somewhere at a tourist location. And so he had another ice cream. And I don't know what brand, so, I'm not doing anything wrong. He was pinging off the walls. Absolutely pinging. And my daughter said, oh, Mum, will you please make sure, you've got some ice cream at home, so at least I can tell him. We'll get some when we go to Mom I's. You can have Mom I's ice cream. But that's another thing. Why do we want to fill the kids with colourings and flavourings? And if you think of the colour of strawberry ice cream on the whole, bright pink, strawberries mixed with cream are not bright pink. No, they're like a bruise colour. So and we do, we sort of have negative feedback as well on the ice creams, because from that I learn, what we need to do. But the negative feedback, oh, there's pips in your strawberry ice cream.
There's pips in strawberries.
Maybe that's because there's like 25% strawberry in it, real strawberries. But it's things, again, we've got used to eating, an ice cream that's flavoured with strawberry. And if you take, the other thing is we don't put any milk in our strawberry ice cream because strawberries are quite high moisture content anyway. So if you then put milk in, you're diluting that flavour again and again and again, and that's why people then put strawberry flavouring in to lift that flavour. So we just took the milk out. We just put double cream and eggs in it, and it is. But, the things that have come back is, well, it's a really weird colour, isn't it? Yeah, it is, because that's, if you take strawberries and mush them about, that's the colour that they'll be.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing. So people are so used to, how's the word, mediocrity almost, blandness. They don't realise, but it just is. And I guess, if they're sitting in front of the TV having an ice cream, it's probably not the most flavoured ice cream they've ever had. And it's satisfying, don't get me wrong, but they're not probably eating it and thinking, But like if I had a 500 gram pot or 500 ml pot of yours and sat in front of the TV, I'd probably not get past that pot. It's me, isn't it? So, but most normal people probably wouldn't get through the whole amount, would they?
No, I remember being at a show once, and somebody, we did single scoops or double scoops, and this guy came up, he said, but I want 3 flavours, and I said, oh, you'll never eat 3. And Jean was marketing, I was finance and Jean was marketing, and Jean said to me, you stick to the numbers, I will do the words. She said, if you would like 3, sir, please have 3, But you struggle because it is so rich. And I think it's the same thing between, if you eat a box of luxury chocolate or you open a box of luxury chocolates, I'm sure you won't eat as much of those chocolates as you would if you ate a cheaper brand.
And there is a science behind this, because I was reading up on, it wasn't Domino's Pizza that invented it, but it was the fact that a lot of companies, Walkers, Domino's, all these had figured out that if you make something bland and soft, people eat lots. Yeah. Whereas if you make it really heavily flavoured, so think of a dense steak that's really well cooked, or a big pot of ice cream that's really rich, you can only eat so much.
Exactly.
But they don't want you to eat so much. They want you to keep eating it. And I think they said that pizza is probably the perfect technological way to eat calories, because it's soft, it's oily, and it also has lots of sweetness on it as well with the sauce and everything.
They're
so it slides down. Very clever. So, but it's also not overly flavoured. No. It's perfectly balanced so that you want more, and your brain can't figure out, because also taste is a way of your brain knowing that you've eaten enough. So if it's rich, you think of it like strong cheese. You just eat a little bit. Oh, that's nice. I'll have a bit. Have a bit more in a minute.
Whereas, it's very clever. Yeah. I remember saying to somebody, this lady said to me, I don't like salted caramel, but she said, because I don't like anything that's salted caramel, and we'd sent her a selection of flavours because we were going to be working with her, and she called me up the next day. She said, I can't believe, she says, I ate all that salted caramel ice cream. She said, because it was amazing. And again, because we've created, I would say 95% of our flavours have been created specifically for a chef or a restaurant chain or whatever. They are very, very demanding customers. So we just pass that flavour development onto you as a consumer. So somebody wrote to me the other day and said, it's the best coconut ice cream I've ever eaten in my life. Again, we developed that for a well-known restaurant chain. So we're going to be, we've got to impress these top chefs with it. So, the flavour's all there. And you do know you've eaten it. You think, yes, actually I've had that portion. So it's not brilliant for our sales volume-wise, but it is brilliant for our sales.
Well, I guess it gives you more repeat sales.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we want to challenge people's perception of ice cream. That's the key thing that we want to do. So, when you open that tub of mint up and it's not green, I want you to be shocked by the fact that it's not green. And when you, with all the flavours, when you open the passion fruit up, I want you to be able to smell the fact that we've taken the fruit, the flesh out of a passion fruit and used the whole lot to make that ice cream. I want you to be wow. And as long as we can keep wowing people, then we're doing something right.
Yeah, no, I think so. And again, it just, I think you're in the good thing is there is a lot of competition in ice cream, but not all ice cream is the same. So,
and I think what we've done is we, again, like I said, we were never in that competitive market. So, we didn't want to just start another ice cream company that was the same as everybody else, because I was I'm 60 this year, so I started the business 10 years ago, and at that age I didn't want to be, doing the same, and it was never our business model to get into retail where we had that competition with other people. And what we haven't done is we haven't changed how we make it. So, we're sitting here now in our boardroom, which is bigger than our production area when we first started. And but what we did was we carried on manufacturing the same process. So a lot of companies, they start off, and this is across all artisan products, it's not just ice cream, but they start off making their product in one way in their kitchens, or in a ghost kitchen, or whatever it may be. And then as their brand gets successful, they then, if venture capitalists come in, or if they sort of take manufacturing accountants come in and say, right, we need to do it a different way, we need to get more economies of scale, then they change how they produce it. And going against all my training as a management accountant, I didn't want to do that. So we started off with one 10-litre machine that was it's like a washing machine sitting on top of a tumble dryer, and it produced 10 litres of ice cream in a 20-minute cycle. When we moved to this new site, or before we moved, we bought some bigger machines, but they were exactly the same brand. They just made 20 litres in that time frame, and that's what we've got downstairs here. So we've got 4 ice cream machines making 20 litres of ice cream every 20 minutes, but making the same quality. And we upscaled an artisan brand. We didn't change how we made it, because if we'd have changed what we made it, then we wouldn't be having this conversation now. Chances are I wouldn't even be in business anymore, because I hadn't got the marketing budget to take on the big boys that were doing that product. So it was definitely a business decision to stay with something that was totally unique to our brand.
Yeah. No, it's a brave move, especially, like you say, in a marketplace that is full of big players, and also lots of smaller big players, which are still big in their own respect, But I guess you've got to stick to your values sometimes. You've just got to say, here's where we are. We're not apologising for that, and our customers love it.
Yeah, and you do. It's lovely to see that when when you sit in front of people and to get the feedback and everything. And the team that work here, they're all the same. They all believe in what we do. And I think if I came and said to them, let's change this, let's change that, I'd be, well, why? Yeah. Why do we want to change anything? So we get asked lots of times, can you make a cheap vanilla? And I just go, no. I said, there are 100 cheap vanillas out there.
Yeah, why do we need to do it?
Yeah, we don't need to do it. I mean, we were asked to quote for a job the other day in a very, very, very posh chain of restaurants. And it was to do an element to a dessert. So we were making part of the dessert in vanilla ice cream. And the reason why we didn't get the job, was because the ice cream was the wrong colour. So I said, well, what colour do you want it? They said, we want it like a lardy colour, like the one we've currently got. I said, but we use egg yolks, and ours is custard colour, and that's why can you make one without egg yolks, or can you make one with cheaper egg yolks? And we just said no. We just don't want it, because if somebody tried that ice cream that was made with cheaper egg yolk, and it looked white as opposed to, this beautiful rich custard colour, and they said, oh yeah, that's Granny Gothards, all of a sudden, Granny Gothards changed. And that's not what we're about. So there's enough business in the ice cream world for all levels of ice cream, you know, and there are enough establishments, eating establishments, to have all range from the, you know, the really sort of, I'm not going to say cheap, cost effective, you know, that suits the menus that they're doing in their restaurants or their tourist attractions or whatever. And then there's our ice cream, which sits in that top end.
Yeah. Well, what's also interesting is that you've not just found a niche in the UK, is that you've now found a niche abroad. And I guess we're quite lucky that we're in the 2020s and you can transport ice cream on ships and planes all over the country within a few days or months, depending which one you do. Tell us a little bit about why you sought trade outside of the UK.
It was dead easy why we decided to look outside, and that was because I walked into the parlour one day in September, and the girls who work for me, who are my biggest asset, because they're trained, they're passionate, they know exactly what they're doing, they were starting to work out with a calendar in front of them what days they were working and what days they weren't working. And I went and sat in my office, which, when I use the word office, it was I sat in my desk in the packing area and listened to them talking, and I just thought, I need to protect these girls. You know, I have a moral duty to employ them on a wage where they can pay their mortgages and you know, have a nice lifestyle. And I didn't want to get to the stage where they had to go and look for other jobs to shore up, you know, their loss of income. So it was, how can I take the seasonality out of my business? Because it's massively seasonal. How can I take that seasonality out? And the way that sprung to mind was export. So I stalked a guy on LinkedIn to the point whether he was either going to get the police involved or he was going to see me. Thankfully, he agreed to see me. And so I got the cheapest flight I could out to Dubai. And I chose Dubai for a number of reasons. One, the company that I was trying to hook, they were all ex-Compass, so there were 4 British guys who'd set up a business out there, and so, you know, there was no language barriers, there was no barriers with culture, you know, they were used to dealing with women and all the rest of it. They 365 days a year sunshine, high net worth obviously, but also a high number of expats. So, you know, the girls will laugh and say, oh, you chose Dubai because it was a nice place to go on holiday, but there was some thought process behind it. And I went to see them, and I sat round their board table. I hadn't any samples at all. I'd gotten a pulled together sort of presentation brochure that we'd done, and I got my passion for a product that I believe in 100%. And I came out with an order for 3 tons of ice cream.
So you pitched a product that you didn't even have with you?
Yeah, didn't even have any packaging. I just, I speak to them now because I still work with them now, and the guy there, I sort of said to him, why did you buy, and I'm going to swear now, but he said, why did you buy 3 tons of ice cream when you'd never tasted a mouthful? And he said, because nobody could have sold shit with that much passion.
Yeah.
And he said, you sort of, it came out of you how amazing that product was. The fact that you could talk about the milk, you could talk about where your cream came from, you knew exactly where your strawberries were from.
I think it helps that you jumped on a plane as well. That shows commitment.
Exactly, yeah.
And also, I guess one of the my friend's a Pakistani Muslim, and he doesn't drink, but he's got a terribly sweet tooth. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like it. This is a guy that waited half an hour in a donut queue, you know. So is there something quite beneficial about the fact that the Muslim countries that are also high net worth don't drink alcohol, especially those countries anyway? So they want to indulge, I guess.
Yeah, and you can see that even here in the UK, the amount of dessert bars that are set up in areas where, you know, there is a high Muslim community. You can see that because they don't socialise in the pub, so they socialise in dessert bars. So over in Dubai, what we decided to do was target both markets. So that expat market that wanted a taste of England, you know, we're very proud to say it's British made, and that was one of the big things that was sort of presented when they launched with the ice cream. And it was Gary Rhodes actually who first started to import us over there. And then the other thing was, with regards to the Muslim community, we developed some flavours that, you know, were very local to the area. So, you know, there weren't many people doing a saffron and cardamom ice cream or a rosewater and cardamom. So we developed some flavours that were really to attract those locals. But what we found is, yes, there were a few places that had that, but we still sold more vanilla, chocolate, honeycomb, strawberry, than anything else. But it's people were sort of eating that ice cream in a different environment as well, because Gary Rose had this chain of cinemas, and you literally sat in your cinema seat and you had your burger or whatever delivered to you and your ice cream, so you were eating a meal while you were watching a film. So he revolutionised the way that people were eating in cinemas. Wow. And our ice cream fitted into that model.
That's really interesting, isn't it? I think one thing that really impresses me about brand Britain, and I mentioned it earlier when we were setting up, is that if something says made in USA, I don't get overly excited by it as a British person. Mm-hmm. I think American people may get excited if they saw it saying made in USA. Whereas I think England's slightly different. I think England, as I was saying before, I think there's three subsets. There's those that don't care, those that really do care, really proud to see that British flag on something, and those that absolutely hate it. Yeah. But on the flip side, everyone else across the globe loves the British flag on something. It almost means something. It's a sign of trust.
Yeah, I think it's got a great sort of, if it's made in Britain, it's going to be good for you. And you can see the amount of products that are exported over to China, for example, for that key reason. The Chinese people have struggled with food safety issues and everything with food that's manufactured over there. Yeah. So when we started to export to China, it was a massive plus that, it was made in the UK, and even bigger plus, it was made in the southwest of England, because, ice cream is synonymous with this area. Yeah. We've got the green fields, we've got the cows out in pasture and all the rest of it. And I think I can see it from the countries that we export to now, Singapore, China, Dubai, Kuwait we've just started with. They all really want to push that made in England. Wow. And I think when we launched in Dubai the last time, so during COVID actually, it was an online retailer in Dubai that started working with us in COVID, because obviously all the cinemas had shut down, all the restaurants, but online sales were going through the roof. And they were really pushing that fact that it was made in England. And within 3 days of launch, we were the third best-selling ice cream in Dubai. Wow. And we'd knocked Haagen-Dazs, the big brands, the Baskin & Robbins, the Haagen-Dazs, the Ben & Jerry's, we'd knocked those off totally. And the only people that were 1 and 2 were handmade ice cream in a dessert bar, where you went in and you had the whole experience of mixing the flavours together and everything else. So then my thought was, right, if we can get to number 3 in Dubai within 3 days, we need to start opening some dessert bars over in the Middle East. Yeah. And getting people into them so they can experience that whole thing of choosing lots of different flavours and all the rest of it. So that's maybe something that's on our plans to do in the future.
I think it's amazing. I just think it always impresses me, even with all the politics and everything, how brand Britain on products especially means something abroad. It just really does. And I don't know whether it's a sign of wealth from the person who's eating it or just a sign of quality, but it is a sign of confidence more than anything. And I think, it just always impresses me. Yeah.
The wealth thing definitely is an issue. Yeah. It is a valid point, because we're talking to India at the moment about exporting to India, and they're interested in the wooden pots. And when we worked out what price it would have to retail in India for, you have this idea in your mind that India's this massive country, but there's abject poverty in the country as well. But they want it for gifting. So to show your wealth, you've got a British product. You're not taking a bottle of wine to somebody's house, so you're taking this beautiful tub of ice cream made in Britain that you can afford to buy, and it is all about that sort of the middle class and upper classes being able to show people that they can afford to, one, have that product on the table and eat it themselves, but two, to gift it as well.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I came through my sister-in-law, who works at the Department of International Trade. I think that's what it's called, isn't it? Yeah. So, and I can't believe the effort that goes into selling abroad. I really can't. It's impressive.
It is, and I'm actually delighted to be an export champion. We won the title as export champions a couple of years ago because of exporting ice cream. Because people, well, how do you export ice cream? I've got to say, sometimes it's easy to get
I worry about taking it home.
Yeah, but it is easier to get it to buy than it is to get it to Lyme Regis in the height of the summer. It really is. But they want to sort of promote all the time, you know, just how good the stuff is over here. And you go to any supermarket and you know, anywhere in the world. I was in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago, you know, with work, looking to find, you know, a potential customer out there. And I did a few store visits while I was out there and went into this beautiful, beautiful shop called Bristol Farms. And there was Barber's cheese. And there was a whole section of British products, you know, all with the flag on them, all, you know, I mean, it was America, so it didn't need translating, but even,
I don't know.
was just the you know, the same as it was in any sort of shop that you go to in the UK. And you do that anywhere in the world, you know, anywhere you travel. And I mean, we've picked up customers in the UK because they've had our ice cream in Dubai.
Wow.
And they've come back and said, oh my goodness, I tried your ice cream in Dubai. Where can I get it from here? You know, and when you think about that, it's just madness.
Yeah. I suppose, well, one thing I'd probably worry about is if they tried it in Dubai and they're outside in the nice hot weather and they've got their shorts on and they come back and have it in miserable England, that could be a risk.
Yeah, but it is never too cold for ice cream.
No, it is true, that is true. And I guess that's probably the benefit, isn't it? That they can just open the tub and just enjoy it straight away.
Yeah, and again, very much, they sort of, an outdoor life, they do sit around outside. I mean, sometimes it's so hot that everywhere's inside and you're air conditioned and everything else. So I know eating in an ice cream parlour in Dubai is colder than eating outside in the UK in the summer. Because, you know, that's the thing that makes me, I just think, why, you know, these people have got jumpers and stuff like that on, but you go into some of the malls and they are freezing. Yeah. You know, but they obviously keep the temperature down. So
have you ever had any mishaps when you're exporting? Because obviously it's a cold product. So have you ever had it just like left on the side of the runway?
We did, but it was going to Belfast.
No, that's not too bad.
No, actually, it shouldn't have gone to Belfast. It ended up in Belfast. It should have gone to somewhere in Cheddar, but it ended up in Belfast and they just left it on the side and it defrosted. But nice. Certainly our exports that we've done, you know, our big exports sort of overseas and everything, they've all been fine.
I guess container jobs generally are quite easy. Well, easier, let's say, because it's all in. You close it. Hopefully, it's on anyway.
Yeah. And we put trackers in as well. So we put trackers in the containers. And somebody said to me, you know, is it worth putting trackers in? And I said yes. And the main thing is with ice cream, if it, you know, we put it in at -23. If on that journey, which is a 3-week journey, if you're going to Dubai, that container for any period of time wasn't working properly, but then was working at the last, say maybe the last week of the journey, you wouldn't know. So the ice cream would get to you, and during that journey, it's been frozen, defrosted, and refrozen. So you wouldn't know that product was not good. If you're sending smoked salmon, and that happens, as soon as you pull the vacuum pack, you will know that there's something wrong with that product. So it's to protect the product, but also to protect you as the consumer, because we don't want you eating ice cream that's been defrosted. No. And the reason is, it's not because the product tastes any different, it's because of what microorganisms can grow during that period when the ice cream isn't frozen.
I guess it would be a perfect incubation temperature,
absolutely,
wouldn't it?
Yeah. And if you imagine it's on a container, on a ship, you know, and usually the ones that are plugged in are usually at the bottom of the container.
Oh, really?
Which is great, because I think it's something like 10 or 15% of containers fall off. You know, it blows my mind how many containers must be under the sea. So it's down at the bottom, which is hot and everything else. So God forbid that it lost its temperature.
And is there any recourse with these shipping companies if it goes off?
I mean, there's insurance, but as I found out to my my cost really when we were just doing a local, you know, it was a delivery up to Northumbria. And when it got there, it was below acceptable temperature for receipt, and so the customer rejected it. So we put a claim into the hauliers. The hauliers have a national standard of how much per kilo they will pay for insurance.
Oh, nowhere near where you need to be.
No.
They're nowhere where we need to be.
No, so now we have a top-up insurance for that type of thing. But more importantly than that, because, you know, the money side, yes, of course it's important. If you've got a 20-foot container, you know, it's got a value of sort of £40,000-50,000. But more importantly than that is that nobody becomes ill from eating the product.
And what bothers me the most is that with hauliers and forklift drivers is they always clip the bottom. Yeah. And then it's like, it's only one bag. So then you think, all right, now I've got to go claim a whole thing for a bag. It's not worth it. Yeah. It's so much effort. But there's mess everywhere.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you just think, it's a pain.
You just want people to take care of your
like
product
it's your own,
like
yeah,
you do,
yeah,
don't
exactly.
you? You know.
And I guess they don't, because they've got a million of these things to move. You know? So
I mean, I think it's great. It's sort of what we do as well, working with the partners that we do, because we're still a small company. We haven't got an export department, we haven't got a marketing department, we haven't got a lab. But the companies that we work with are all very much part of what we do, and it's the same with our hauliers. You know, with Langdons. They think it's hilarious that when we're loading up a 20-foot container or a 40-foot container, I always go and watch it.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's not because I don't think they're going to do a good job. No. I just love to see those forklifts,
it's a sense of pride.
Yeah, swinging around and putting my product in
Langdons
there.
are very professional as well.
They are very professional.
They know what they're doing.
And that's the thing, you work with the right people. You know, and it's not about saving £10 here on a pallet rate, because that saving £10 could cost you an awful lot more money.
Well, there's the price and there's the cost of use.
Yeah.
And if you save £10 here, it'll bite you on the bum later.
Exactly.
We use one of the best flour millers in the UK to source our flour, and they rang me today and said, the price is going up, which I'm sure you hear a lot of this at the moment. And, I'm annoyed, and he goes, I'm sorry. And, usually they give us a month's notice, and they gave us 7 days notice. And it is the sign of the times. Do I get angry? No. Am I a little annoyed? Mildly. But what can you do? You can't lose yourself over it. You've got to say, I've been with them for 7 years. They're fantastic at their job. Yeah. It's hard for them too.
And we're the same with packaging. I mean, as you know, with packaging, I've just had another email today about the price of the tubs. And yesterday it was the outers that we use. And I just messaged back Steve and I went, enough now.
Please stop.
This is the 5th one this year. Yeah. And yes, we can't do anything about it. We all know that they're not just doing it because they're sitting in their offices and, they want a new car or something. They're doing it because of world shortages. They're doing it because of Brexit. They're doing it now because of Ukraine and what's going on there. And it's like, we're having to absorb it. And you get to the stage where now we very rarely try and do price increases, but we've had to this year. Excuse me. But the people that we're talking to, they understand, because they know that the reason why I'm putting my price up, because all my prices have gone up. It's not because, I want to go on holiday in July. It's because, this is unfortunately the world that we're living in at the moment.
I think anybody that's unsure of your motives just need to look at the petrol station. Exactly. That's the start. I think that, and I think, and look, our customers, just like me, are allowed to be frustrated and angry and upset. But the fact is, we're all in the same boat. Yeah. And, we're all trying to look after each other. And it is tough, and at the moment, it's everywhere you look, So, that's all right. It's all this talking. Yeah, so I think it is one of those things. It's just, it's not nice, but we are all in it together.
Yeah. And I think what what does annoy me though is when vanilla, for example, they had a terrible harvest in Madagascar maybe about 4 years ago, and it was all over the news. That the price of vanilla was going to go through the roof and all. And vanilla is expensive. I think when I first started 10 years ago, I was paying £200 a kilo. £100 a kilo. I'm now paying like £300, £400, £500 a kilo. But everybody said they're going to have to put the price of vanilla ice cream up, but if you look at the amount of companies that actually put vanilla pods in their ice cream, it isn't everybody. Yeah. So, if people just, instead of thinking this is an opportunity to put the price up, just actually reacted, to current situations that actually affected their business, I think, we would all see it a lot easier. Yeah. But I think sometimes it's almost like, when it gets to January the 1st and you come into work and your emails are all price increases, do you really need to do that? Because when things go back, how many people will revert back to a lower price? Yeah. And I think that's what's sad. I mean, I saw a petrol station the other day that the day before the spring announcement put his price up. And he put his price up again, and then that allowed him to bring his price down by the 5p fuel duty with still maintaining the higher prices. Yeah. But people know. Yeah. So it's a false economy because people won't go there, and he's also got a shop there as well where he wants to sell the goods in the shop. Well, people aren't going to go and buy the goods in the shop.
And I do think the free market will have a way of, people will vote with their feet, and they'll say he tried it on, whether they remember it or not, or they'll just think he was dear once. They might not know the malice behind it, but some will. and they just won't go there.
No, exactly. You know? And then I think people, I mean, I know certainly for myself, you know, when my suppliers come with price increases, I know they don't want to do it. I know it's because they've had to do it, and therefore you accept them and you just deal with it.
Yeah. Well, when I picked up the phone today to my supplier, the first thing he said was sorry.
Yeah.
And I knew what was coming straight after sorry. So to be fair, I have been avoiding him for about 10 days. Yeah. So, but it's just a tricky old time. But one thing I can cope with is I don't mind. Well, nobody likes it, but if I'm going to have high inflation, let's say, and I've got to pay more for the product, I want to be able to still source the greatest product I can get. So I don't want them to say to me, oh, by the way, you're paying 20% more, but the wheat's crap. I'd lose myself, you know, I'd be despondent and probably want to hurt somebody. But I think as long as the quality is still great, and that's why we're lucky we live in the UK, because the quality is great. But on top of that, if sales were flatlining, then I'd be really worried. And actually, I'm in an industry, and I think similar to you, we're in an industry where people love the food they eat. It's the indulgence. People love ice cream, they love fish and chips. Yeah. So we're quite lucky in that respect. And I think that, you know, if people have a fish and chip shop right now, and people are trading down from nice restaurants, they're probably going to be saying, look, you know, electric bills have gone up, gas bills have gone up, let's treat ourselves to nice fish and chips.
Yes,
you know? And I think that would be the same with ice cream, won't it?
It is. I think we all need to have something, you know,
cheer us
some
up
kind of vice or whatever you want to call it to cheer us up, you know. And I think in times, I mean, it's been proved in times of, you know, recession and things like that, that those items that are a little bit more luxurious, they do actually sell well, because it's like, oh, I've just had, you know, such a bloody week of it. Yeah. And there are people, you know, when you talk about the number of people that are in that poverty sort of line and all the rest of it, it is absolutely horrendous. It's horrendous. But, you know, how we solve that problem, I don't know.
It's bigger than all of us.
It is massive, you know, and it's terrible in 2022 that we are still, you know, living in a world where people have to think, can I feed my children or can I put warmth on for my children? And that is awful, and anything that, you know, we as a country can do to help that. And then I feel for the government as well, wherever your politics are, there's only so much money available. And coming out of what we've all come through, we know as small businesses the effect it's had on our businesses and how we've had to change what we do. And if you look upon that as a world, I just don't know. I just don't know how the answers are.
I think when I was watching the Spring Statement the other day with Rishi Sunak, and he was saying, he had a little note at the end, and he goes, "We wish we could do more, but this is what we've got." Yeah. And I think he was being genuine. You know, I know a lot of people said he's probably saving it for near election time, and maybe he is, but I took him at face value. And I think he's genuine. If he could do more, he would. And to be fair, a year ago, 18 months ago, he did do more.
Yes, exactly.
You know, so, you know, and I think a friend of mine said a long time ago, it goes, it was just the first COVID hit and they announced a few measures. And he goes, one thing I worry about is 3 years down the line, everyone's going to be so used to the handouts. And I said to him, why? Because he's a lot older than me. And he says, I said, I've never seen this before or anything like it. And he goes, people don't want the help until they start getting the help. And when they start getting the help, they don't want it to go away.
Yes, yeah.
And I have sort of seen a little bit of that at the moment. And everyone's like, oh, we need more grants and so on.
Yeah. And I think you can see it in the labour market as well. You know, we struggled last year to get people back to work. Yeah. You know, we struggled to get people to want to come and work. And then when people did come in, it was it's quite physical, isn't it?
What's depressing about this country, as I don't understand, is that the unemployment rate is quite high.
Yeah.
I don't know what portion of that is disability. I'm not an expert and economist, but when you consider that it's so high, yet there's so many jobs available, and you'd like to think, well, I don't want to say it, but maybe they should go and take those jobs.
Yeah, because everybody we speak to, from our customers to our suppliers, have vacancies. You know, whether it's serving, whether it's cooking, whether it's, you know, front of house, whether it's people going out and, you know, working, you know, making board, making boxes or whatever, they all have vacancies. And yet you think, we've got high unemployment, you know, and I know a lot of those vacancies came from the movement of European labour back to Europe, you know, back to especially the Eastern Europe. And, you know, we had Eastern European ladies working here that have gone back home and everything, so I understand all of that. But when you're interviewing somebody and they come and spend a day with us, and the reason why they don't want the job, it's a bit physical, it's like so frustrating, you know, because you just think, but just have a job.
I know a lot of people don't like her, but Priti Patel said something on the news maybe 6 months ago now, and she said it would be, I can't remember the wording, but I'll paraphrase. She said basically it would be terrible to open up the borders to let more people in. This was before the war, obviously. Yeah. when we have high unemployment rate in the UK. You know, we have people that don't have jobs and they're claiming off the system. I don't want to say it in that derogatory way, but they're being paid to not work off the system. And yet people are saying we need to bring people from abroad. And I don't know, I do sort of agree with that basic statement without getting into all the details. There is something there that says, 1 minute, what's gone wrong? That we do have, 4 million people or so that aren't working in this country. And then we've got companies that are saying, we need staff, bring them over from somewhere. And you think, well, why? You know,
I know, it's sad. And like you say, you know, you
without getting
can't
political,
go down
of course.
the political side of it.
Yeah.
But just as a, you know, somebody who employs production staff and office staff and everything else, I just wish there were more people that just wanted to come to work. Yeah. You know, and it is a physical environment. But, you know, when I'm down there, I mean, last week I was down there, or this week I was down there making ice cream because, you know, we're so busy, like, going back to the sunshine coming out again, but we're so busy. I love it. I love going home physically tired. You know, it's a real sense of achievement and everything. But it's just, I think I don't know, again, going back to, I don't know how it's going to be put right, but...
Closing the sort of podcast down, essentially, what are your thoughts on the future of the industry or, you know, the economy in the UK? A lot of people thought maybe after Brexit things would tank. A lot of people thought that after COVID things would tank. Obviously now we've got the war, which has thrown everything up in the air. One thing that I've noticed, and it's just a quick anecdote, is that I've been looking for warehousing. I can't find it for love or money. They're popping up all over the place and they're going just as fast. And yet people say to me, we're going to be in a recession, etc. But those two things don't line up to me, because how can warehousing that wasn't in short demand before be popping up everywhere and be taken over almost immediately? I live in a small town where the Aldi supermarket is, where the headquarters is, and you can't find a warehouse. You know, they're now building a 1.2 million square foot warehouse. It's all been rented out. And as you know, that's a considerable warehouse. You know, and I don't think it's even Amazon that's taking it, you know, and you think to yourself, what is it that, you know, people are saying there's a recession, but it's not. There's something weird going on there. It doesn't feel or act like a recession.
Yeah, I think what I can see, and I'm, like I said, I'm not political at all. No. I sit in my little ice
You're
cream
political
tower.
about ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. But what I can see is the fact that what COVID did, it sorted out a lot of companies, those that wanted to continue and fight and actually look at their whole business model and change their business model to cope with that situation. I think there are a lot of people maybe in family businesses that were coming, you know, looking, shall we retire? And COVID brought that on a bit quicker. So that left the gap then for, you know, the companies that wanted to sort of diversify and, you know, look for other avenues, other markets, then pick up that gap. And then I think the very unfortunate ones, the ones that actually had to fold through no fault of their own. So they didn't want to fold and, you know, but because of the financial situation and the lack of markets, they had to do it. But I certainly, within the food industry and the people that I meet around here in the southwest, most of the food companies are absolutely booming. I think as well that the general public during COVID that were ordering online were then trying different foods, and it goes back again. They had money in their pocket because they were furloughed. They couldn't spend it driving the car to work, or they didn't have to spend it driving the car to work, so they had a lot more disposable income to be a bit more creative and a bit more adventurous when it came to food. And maybe, you know, I think the supermarket said they saw a rise in luxury goods, a massive rise in luxury goods, both food and non-food. So people actually tried different things, and then maybe once they tried those things, they realised they like them and they don't want to go back. And, you know, maybe talking specifically ice cream now, they did make that decision. Instead of buying a litre tub of cheap ice cream, they buy a half-litre tub of you know, Granny Gothards. So I think those companies that are looking at different ways are going to come out of this stronger. Where I think it's a different recession, because recessions before have hit the labour market and because manufacturers aren't manufacturing and all the rest of it. I think this recession that we're coming into now is a financial one caused by poverty, not lack of jobs, but rising prices.
Yeah.
It's been caused by rising prices, and that is a worldwide thing that's going on. I think, you know, going back to recessions, I can remember in the 70s when I was a very small child, but, you know, the electricity being turned off at night time, and, you know, all the, you know, we weren't allowed to have this, we weren't allowed to have that. That was almost like a Labour, not Labour politics, but a Labour sort of thing, and it was the strength of, you know, all the unions and everything else that was pushing prices up and everything, because they wouldn't want to work in the conditions. I just don't think we've seen a recession that we're heading into now that's caused by the same kind of circumstances as this one is, and that's why maybe businesses are still thriving.
Yeah.
You know, I was sitting on a panel the other day with 4 businesses that are all flat out, you know, a paddleboard manufacturer who has never sold so many paddleboards because everybody took up paddleboarding in COVID. You know, a guy who does software for cars, and again, never been as busy. Sausage maker, you know, but premium sausages which people are buying, and then everybody was out in the gardens having barbecues because they weren't going to the pub. So a lot of businesses have actually, you know, bloomed and definitely, you know, grown during that COVID period, and are now still, you know, continuing to grow because of it.
Yeah.
So it's like you say, we could do with a warehouse. You know, we're actually renting another unit now because we need it for packaging storage, because our customers are much bigger than when we first started and all the rest of it. So I think it's a funny recession.
Yeah, I think the 2008 recession felt a bit like it was a stagflation, wasn't it? It was stagnant. There was no up or down swings. It was just, and I think that's the word. Yeah, it was just flatlined, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I think obviously, I do think the likes of like the David Camerons and Osbornes made that worse. I think, you know, because I think that austerity was just, I hated it. It was just grey. Like, there was no oomph about them. And I think one thing I give credit to Boris for, I must admit, is that he champions Britishness and British business and, you know, and business. And so there is something like he rallies the troops, and I think that's something we needed then, really.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think Gordon Brown deserves as much credit as he got either back then, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know.
I think as well, if you look at, I like I say, I lived in Munich for a few years, and Germany's economy was built on SMEs. You know, it was built on the creativity, and not particularly food, but you know, sort of in science, in manufacturing, in engineering. It was built on that creativity of small SMEs. And I think what we as a collective bring to the market and everything, bring to the UK, is we're entrepreneurial. We're not frightened to challenge perceptions. We're not frightened to sort of make decisions, and also the speed in which we can make decisions. So, you know, if we have to react, we can react quickly. You know, if I need to change a packaging supplier, you know, for some reason, I can do it. I can make that decision within 5 minutes. Whereas these huge, great big companies that we all know and love have to go through a massive period of doing that. And that's why, you know, you'll see somebody bring something new to the market, and it's 18 months before the big boys follow.
Wow.
When they do come in, they will then take over that market because they've got the marketing budgets to do it.
You know what product I think about when you say that? Anything salted caramel.
Yeah.
Yeah, like not long ago it was all salted caramel. Now it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, and you can tell they've come into that market. We've got to do it, and they do it on everything.
Exactly, and we've changed that. So salted caramel is still a big seller, but salted honey is our big one.
Nice.
So, and again, coming up the M4 or the M5 to work, and there was an article on Radio 4 about honey and how good it is for you and everything else. And I was like driving up and thought, well, we do a honey ice cream. What if we could do a salted honey ice cream? And it's the best-selling way.
One thing I'm obsessed about at the moment, and everybody that knows me, because I tell everyone, and I'm telling you, and everyone who's listening, is I'm obsessed with really good Greek yogurt, chopped nuts all over it, and honey, loads of honey, with a honeycomb in it as well, the proper honeycomb. And I'm obsessed with it. I've had it every night.
Yeah,
I'll probably be sick of it soon, but I am obsessed with it. And I think there's just something so simple about it.
Yeah, again, it's unmessed about, isn't it? And we go back to what we spoke to at the beginning about unprocessed. Yeah. You know, and if you get a good quality, because the other thing is as well, it's like somebody said, how come your ice cream tastes so amazing? And I just said, we start off with amazing ingredients. And if you liken it to a chef doing a steak in a restaurant, if you've got a good steak, you flash fry it, you put it on a plate, nothing better.
Yeah.
If you've got a cheap cut of meat, how much work do you have to do to that cut of meat to make it taste nice? You know, so that's the thing. It goes back to that, starting with quality ingredients and everything. And your Greek yogurt, you can't beat.
No, you
but
can't.
You haven't had any of our Greek passion fruit
I have not.
Passion fruit yogurt yet, so you need to take that home with you.
God, I don't think I'd get very far, to be honest. But have I forgotten to ask you about anything? Is there something that I've got to ask you, I need to hear right now before I leave?
I think the thing, I mean, you can see on our wall that the awards and everything else we win and all the rest of it, and that is down to the girls downstairs.
Yeah.
You know, I can sit here, so people say to me, oh, you know, you make amazing ice cream. No, I sell amazing ice cream. You know, and I think any company, however big or small you have, must never ever forget, you know, the people who actually make your product. And you know, when the business started, it was me, Jean and Donna, you know, and we still talk about it now, the days when we used to make the ice cream, and then we'd go and sit outside and eat the ice cream and everything. And it was very easy days. It was, you know, there's no stress involved or anything else. But, you know, I haven't mentioned my staff much, and they are the key, the Granny Gothards team, right through from, like I say, the girls who make it, the guy who delivers the milk in the morning, the girls, the back office staff, the people who've met Susie will know that she has just as much passion for what we do as I do. And, you know, Deb's in accounts, who's dealing with, you know, customers and suppliers, again, has as much passion, loves the business, loves the fact that, you know, we bring her up a pot of ice cream every day straight from the machine. But yeah, I think we all appreciate those people, and I think, as you know, you remember what they do for you and the hours that they put in when we're up against it. I mean, when the order came in for Dubai in lockdown, they were all furloughed. Yeah. And, you know, I had to ring them up and say, guys, can you all come back to work? Can you start work tomorrow? And apart from the moaning that they wanted to put the gym jams on at 2:30, you know, everybody just came back in, and we were working till 7, 8 o'clock, from 8 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, as a business owner, you never forget that.
That brushed off the cobwebs, didn't it?
It certainly brushed off the cobwebs. But I can only sell a product as good as they produce it. So, yeah, just the staff, the team and everything else, I'd like to thank them.
Oh, you just did. Well done.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. I'm so glad we did this. You know.
Yeah, it's brilliant to be able to get involved in something like this, because, you know, sometimes it's all the product that's there and people are tasting and sell the product, but it's nice to find that story behind it all.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I think it's brilliant what you do.
Oh, thanks. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Amanda.
Thank you. You're welcome. I look forward to listening to some more of your podcasts as well.
Thank you. Massive shout out to Amanda Stansfield for coming on the Sarah's podcast. To find out more about Granny Gothards, visit grannygothards.co.uk or see links in the show notes. I warn you now, there is an online shop, and you can buy Granny Gothards ice cream for home from Ocado. Be sure to share this podcast with friends and on social media. If you like this episode, then others in the same industry will love it too. To see what we have been up to and how any of our solutions can help you, visit worldofsarahs.com.